All right. So, all teaching is for the individual. All spiritual teachings are meant for the individual. Questions like, what should I do? Or when will this get better? When will I awaken? All questions arise from a sense of feeling like a separate self. What you are doesn't need instruction. In my experience, this process of awakening never ends. It starts from the head, moves further down into the heart, and then the body, and the gut and the body, and also out into the world. It starts influencing the way you act in the world, the way you do things, what career you pick, how you relate to people. Ultimately, it liberates you. It liberates you to live the way you've always wanted to live, but you were too afraid to, if that makes sense. It allows you to engage with the world and other people from a place of completion, from a place of not fearing the consequence. And in a way, it's everything that you could have ever hoped for. Especially the embodiment. I think the embodiment is the true awakening. I think an awakening never ends. That's the thing. I think what I used to think was awakening or enlightenment was a threshold you reached, and then that was it. In my experience, the sense of separation, it just keeps getting thinner and thinner, and the reality of things becomes more obvious as time goes on. And I don't see it ending. Although now I see that the movement is more outward bound. It's taking me out into the world. It's not very introspective anymore. It's more extroverted in nature. That makes sense. And it's a release. It's a relief and a release from constraint, from self-imposed constraint. The price is that you have to let your fist go. You have to open the fist and let go of control. That's that's the hardest part about all of this, is that you have to let go of control. You have to surrender completely to the flow of experience, and the flow of experience is impersonal. It doesn't care about what you want. It doesn't care about what you want, or what I want, what anybody else wants. It doesn't care about our little preferences. Sure, we'll have our little preferences, and that's okay. But why not choose to prefer something that's already happening, or choose to prefer the path life is already taking you on? When we attach to things that are not happening, that creates suffering. I mean, in all honesty, there's still some stuff that I'm working through, you know, like let's just be honest here. Like there is cleaning up happening. There's shadow work there to be done. The tiny little attachments that still need to be worked on. But it's becoming clear, or it's seen that these are impersonal things. This is an impersonal process. Like imagine imagine planting a seed, giving it the right environment and conditions, and watching it grow into a tree. The tree is not growing itself. You know what I mean? Like there's an intelligence within the seed, and it's a completely natural climb. It's a natural ascent. The tree becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it fully matures into something. Or a flower blossoming. You know, these are natural processes. A honeybee being attracted to the nectar. These are natural processes, right? Similarly, awakening or the deconstruction of identity is a natural process. For the first, I mean, from a more psychological perspective, the first part of our lives, we are constructing an identity, or identity construction is going on. So we are given a name, we have a form, we are trying to figure out our likes and dislikes, you know, and that's identity formation. But problem is that there's a point where the identity calcifies, you know, the ego calcifies, and our sense of self becomes too identified with our roles, with our social roles, and it becomes suffocating. So then the very necessary movement of deconstruction of the identity takes place. And now we're trying to think about, okay, wait a minute. Who am I? You know, does the ego even exist? You know, have I actually found a separate sense of self? You know, or is this an illusion, right? So then you start thinking about, okay, this might not be true. You know, this might not be who I am. I might be something else. And then you discover pathways which help you do this exploration experientially. And, you know, what you find is that the more you deconstruct yourself, the happier you get. The more you deconstruct yourself, the more peace reveals itself to you. And the more okay you feel about yourself, about other people, and just the way things are naturally with reality. So there's a big danger here. I want to mention that there's a big danger here because there can be a tendency of projecting perfection onto people who speak about these things. In my experience, that there's no such thing as embodied perfection. There is perfection in the sense that what we already are is perfect, but in terms of how it gets embodied in an individual person, there's no such thing as perfection because there's no end to embodiment. There cannot be an end to embodying what is infinite, right? And so a lot of teachers, you know, whether knowingly or unknowingly, have created personality cults essentially. And what that does is that it makes genuine inquiry seem like heresy. You know, you feel like you're going against, you're doing something you're not supposed to do if you question the teacher, right? Um, and in the deepest sense, there are no teachers, right? So there are just other people who've been on the same path, and they're just sharing notes. They're just pointing you. They're just notes, bro. Like they're just notes, or maybe even pointers, you can say. But I prefer notes. I prefer sharings. I prefer sharings. Yeah, these are not teachings. These are sharings from personal experience. Um, and sometimes listening to somebody else talk about their own experience can help unwind a certain pattern within yourself as well. Um, and as we become more conscious, you recognize that at the end of the day, like everybody is seeking the same thing, you know. Everybody just wants to unwind and relax, be unafraid in life, um, live a happy, fulfilled life, doing whatever you want to do, right? Like nobody telling you like, hey, this is the way you should live. Ultimately, you just want to move with the natural current of your authentic self. So life slows down quite a lot, because why it can feel rushed is when you are always living for a future. You're always trying to get something in the future. Um, so that can make things feel very rushed. But when you see that actually the grasping or the seeking itself is destroying your peace, you're like, okay, just gonna lay back a little bit, you know, I'm just gonna let go a little bit and see what happens. I get scared sometimes because I'm still at university, and you know, this process has deepened, and it's changing the way I talk and the way I relate with people. And you know, sometimes I wonder, like, you know, sometimes when you talk to your teachers or professors, there can be a false sense of deferring to their authority. Um, that can arise. That can be even socially expected. You know, that you defer to their authority and things of that nature. But the more it deepens, you realize like authority is an illusion, right? Like that nobody has more authority than you. You don't have more authority than anybody else. Everything is just the same. But you know, I'm curious, or I do get scared actually of like, okay, what might be the social ramifications of this the more it deepens, because this is going to deepen, right? And then this is going to lose more and more control, and what we might call emptiness spirit, they would take over how this organism acts in the world. And so at least right now there does arise a certain fear. And also, like, I feel like honesty, it's not very encouraged in our culture, at least nowadays. You know, I think compassion is important, and our culture does a good job of encouraging that. But at the same time, like, Sometimes I feel like being honest with oneself or with others nowadays feels like heresy. It feels like being your authentic self is something worthy of guilt, like you're being selfish. I don't know why that is. I think what people are scared of is essentially honesty being used to hurt people. But honesty is necessary for like um, just telling the truth to yourself, bro. Otherwise, like your problems will remain your problems. Like you'll never be able to fix them if you're not honest with yourself. A lot of our struggle internally gets perpetuated because we cover the truth with lies. We deceive ourselves, or we unconsciously want to lie to ourselves or not see our own darkness. So it makes us feel comfortable for sure. That's why we do it. But it doesn't help us. It doesn't bring relief. It doesn't bring permanent relief. It brings solace, but not a solution. Right? And so honesty is actually very important. And sometimes when I'm honest, I feel like guilty. I feel like, wait, am I being selfish right now? Like, am I hurting somebody's feelings? Even though all I'm trying to do is express myself authentically. And yeah, and like you can't help it. Like sometimes it does offend people. Um, I think it just comes with the territory, but I think we need to. I generally think we need to improve as a culture. I think we need to change our values and become more authentic and honest, while retaining compassion, right? While being kind to each other. All of both of those movements are important. But I remember telling some of my friends that one of a very useful exercise that I used to do was journal about my weaknesses. I used to ask myself like, okay, what are my weaknesses? Which areas of my life are, and they were like, okay, like, but isn't being honest with yourself going to make you feel bad? And then I generally thought about it. I was like, I don't remember feeling bad for being honest with myself. I mean, it was surely uncomfortable to see these truths about myself, don't get me wrong, but it was empowering because I could then improve. You know what I mean? I could address these weaknesses. Like, if I'm not honest with myself, if I'm dishonest with myself, it's not that the condition improves, it's just that I'm asleep to it, right? It's like you have cancer, but you won't acknowledge that you have cancer. So, how is this dishonesty actually helping you other than as a temporary band-aid? So, yeah, I don't buy that. I think honesty is important. And even when you look at even companies that succeed, companies that are that encourage open, honest feedback, they're the ones who are able to sustain themselves in the long term. They're willing to face uncomfortable truths. I don't know, man. Like I just hate it. Like it's maddening to me what's happening to truth in our culture. I wish truth was more encouraged. I wish truth was more valued. And by culture, I mean like I'm studying at a university. I'm in a Western country. I get around, talk to people, so I just get the general sense of things. I just get a general sense of what's socially appropriate, what's socially acceptable and what is not. And usually I find like people are not willing to um, individuality is just not encouraged. I feel like I think there's a focus on the collective, which is nice, but growth only happens in individuality, right? um so Otherwise, all you have is the status quo. Otherwise, all you have are kind and oftentimes nice people who are committed to maintaining social harmony. But is that necessarily virtue? Is that necessarily a good thing if the status quo is not a good one? What if the status quo is slavery? Would it not be more virtuous to be honest and say, hey, this is wrong, right? Would it not be more inclusive to say, hey, you're not being inclusive, right? Holy shit, dude. And the problem is the people who actually speak the truth or their mind, whatever, what have you, they are socially penalized. It's insane. Um, the gut awakening um, is the deepest one, is what I'm exploring right now. At least on a personal level, it feels like the deepest form of awakening. It's when the entire body lets go. I mean, think of it this way, like there are three centers: the gut, the heart, and the head. Head is the region of your thoughts, heart is the region of your feelings, and the gut is the region of your actions, right? And so, enlightened thought, enlightened affect, and enlightened action, essentially. And that's our deepest clenching, because it's one way, like, many people have enlightened thoughts, bro. Like, it's not like a very deep existential transformation we're talking about here. Many people have nice thoughts. I was talking to my parents, and they do intellectually support what I'm saying. They do intellectually support social transformation and things of that nature. But it's one thing to say that and understand that cognitively. It's another thing to align your life towards that aim, towards social transformation. That's why we value people like, you know, Martin Luther King and Gandhi and, you know, Lincoln, is because for them, the values they held were not private anymore. They were public. They had aligned their values with their gut, with their behavior. They became their ideas, right? That's what we want to see. Do you have the courage to become who you are, and live from that place moment to moment, even when you're challenged in the world? And that takes conviction, that takes courage. That's the gut of the situation. For the gut to awaken, a letting go must happen in the belly. The release, essentially, and then the spirit can function. Then the spirit can function as you. That's the thing. Then the spirit can function as you. Then you're no longer talking about spirit, or spirit is not a distant reality anymore. You are spirit. You are moving through the world as spirit itself, not as a separate entity, but as spirit itself. And you're slowly transforming the world in your own way, into a more spiritual world, to a more conscious world. It's funny that we are so unconscious that we don't even recognize that what we want ultimately is what we are. And we are sold this lie. We are so immature. That's the reason. We are very psychologically immature. And we condition our children to think the same way. We don't let them think any other thought. Yeah.